Hello everyone, how are you going? Welcome to 5 winter hacks to keep your car from freezing. Now look, I don't particularly think that I would need these in my everyday life, but I think something like this is definitely good information to know, and it might even just help me escape the brutal cold, the minus 20, no, let's just be honest, the 5 degrees of Australian winters.
With all the freezing rain and snow, it's important to protect your car this winter, especially if you're parking outside.
And the camera.
These cold weather car hacks might help. Open your windows a bit, just for a few seconds, to let in cool, dry air before locking up your car for the night.
Right.
This will prevent frost formation on your windshield, because humidity creates condensation. And in these freezing temps, condensation creates frost.
And then everything cools off at the same speed. And that's usually the best way to prevent condensation.
And don't leave any liquids in the car, as it'll create more condensation.
Wow, well that is certainly just an absolute hack off the start, and I never would have thought that opening your windows to let any sort of outside in is going to be efficient. I would have just been locking it up, putting it on recirculate, all those kind of things, just going, no, just try and keep the environment out. But I guess like they were saying, from a physics point of view, it does make sense to be having the entire thing cool down at once, and so you don't have this kind of heat sink that is the glass. And I guess I am also forgetting that people would have been running the heaters in their car, and so there's going to be a massive heat discrepancy if it's 5, 10, 15, even 20 degrees. That would be pretty darn high, but down to minus 20, a 40-degree difference is just going to make havoc for your car. Yep, the classic defrost with AC.
Defrost your windshield with the AC on. It's designed to pull moisture out of your car, which could help clear frost faster.
Yep, all that condensation. Ice.
If you want to save time in the morning, here's how to clear your windshield fast. To make a homemade de-icing spray, mix 2 parts rubbing alcohol with 1 part water. Put in an old spray bottle. Spray, wipe, and go.
Rubbing alcohol and water mixture can dissolve the water crystals, which is ice, almost exactly the same way that water dissolves sugar and salt crystals.
That, I mean, look, I guess I'm no chemistry buff, but at the same time, that has just completely blown my mind. I mean, I guess I've certainly heard of something like that before, some kind of icer or de-icer, but why and how does that even work? As I can't imagine there is going to be any kind of chemical reaction where the water and the alcohol are going to be used to generate heat, and so unless the alcohol is going to be evaporating quicker or in much, much lower temperatures as well, and so maybe it just kind of takes all that condensation and moisture of the water with it, and you're just watering it down so it's not straight alcohol. But either way, this is just an awesome recipe to be knowing, and I can only imagine that everyone that would live in these kind of areas would know it, regardless of whether they use it or not. They go 2 to 1. That is so simple to remember. Car alternative.
Some people shell out for a car cover, but here's a cheaper alternative. Slide tube socks on your wipers and wrap bags around the side mirrors to help protect from ice and snow. Some people leave their wipers up at night, but experts don't recommend it.
We've seen them come down, and when they come down, they can break the windshield.
What? How are they coming down with that much force that they're just breaking the windshield? I mean, unless it's acting almost like an ice pick and the entire thing is just disintegrating because it's rock hard, but why are they coming down with such force to break the windshield? I mean, that is just insane. And I guess also, why would you be putting them up in the first place? Is it so they don't get buried under the snow and you can try and use them to clear the last little bit? Or is it just so they don't get frozen solid with the rest of the snow on the windscreen? Or what are you possibly going to be using them for, to be able to clear some of the Canadian 2, 5, 6, 10, 20 feet of snow that they can get? However, that was certainly not the only surprising thing about this. Why are you possibly going to be putting garbage bags or plastic bags or anything over your mirrors? I mean, what, the mirrors are going to be smashing it? They're going to be getting covered? What is so fragile about the mirrors and the wipers? I guess I can understand the wipers, but why the mirrors? And look, I guess to a point you could call this an alternative, but to what end does an alternative reach? You know, just covering what, like 1% of the entire car doesn't really count as a car cover in my mind. You really have to be getting, I don't know, just something to cover the rest of the paintwork, if nothing else. I mean, maybe thinking about it, there's some kind of fragile components like the motors or things like that are just kind of extra exposed because, well, there's not much volume to the mirrors in comparison to the rest of the car, and there's not much to it, so I can understand why it would be a little bit more fragile, but I just wouldn't have thought it would have been that much of a big deal. I mean, especially because you've got rubbers and gaskets and everything all over the rest of the car, and so to what end are you just not able to protect every last component? And why would you then go, oh yeah, just the mirrors?
Your windows and windshield are important, but if it's cold enough, your car door can actually freeze shut. And trust me, you don't want that. Here's how you can stop that from happening. Take some cooking spray to apply to the rubber seal around your doors. Make sure to wipe off excess with a paper towel. The oil can help prevent water from sticking to the seal. You can also ask your mechanic to put a silicone treatment on your door seals. And do not pour hot water on a frozen vehicle. If you do, you'll risk cracking your windshield, and winter weather will be the least of your worries.
Now look, I've said it before and I will continue to admit that that would have been one of my first go-to problems because it just sounds so easy, you know? You just heat up some water, pour it all over the car, and all of a sudden, literally, your problem just melts away. But no, if it is cold enough, you are just going to be adding to the problem, and even if it isn't, you're just going to be having such a stark temperature change that, like they said, you can just break things that just aren't used to that kind of, 150 degree temperature change, 100 degree? However, in saying that, just using the oil, I guess in this case it was cooking spray, but I reckon it would work pretty darn well regardless of the oil because you just want to be using it as a water displacer, just going, no water, just please just leave me one part of my car that you are not touching in this frozen wasteland. And I mean, I guess as she did go on to say, you can also get more of a professionally applied one, which is going to have the silicone in it, which I don't know, is it going to help it not freeze or is it just going to help it not stick? That's what I'm wondering. I mean, they're kind of the one and the same, but they do accomplish different things. And that also has now got me wondering, would something like this just work in a hot environment as well? Because, well, it's very, very different in terms of why they fail or what's going to be wrong with them. But in hot environments, let's say they dry out or they get UV damaged or whatever it may be. And so if you were applying this kind of oil-based lubricant or whatever it may be, does it actually just prolong the life of the rubber overall? But no, I just have to come back to this one because it is the perfect example as to why I cannot fathom how people possibly live in these frozen wasteland environments. You know, it's not even that cold really in comparison to a lot of places. It's only -10 and it took them 8 hours to get into their car. How do you get anything done ever? So honestly, even though they did teach me a lot, I'm just wondering, do the masses disagree with anything that they said throughout this entire video? So, well, I mean, the first comment says, yeah, I agree, but don't use PAM, use silicone lubricant. Oh, of course you can buy it at Canadian Tire, but oh, wow, Vaseline works even better though. Well, I guess that is certainly something to keep in mind. Oh, actually, that is a fantastic point. Never use socks on your wipers. The socks will get wet and freeze on your wipers, and then you're going to be completely stuck because unless I guess maybe you'd be able to boil them because it's kind of an insulated cotton material or I guess wool. But yeah, they're absolutely right because even in my experience, just even putting, let's say, a tea towel in the freezer, those things get, well, for one, rock hard, but they're so stuck together. You feel as though you're going to break your arms off before you break it apart. But hang on one second. I've just found this video. I'm also just found the thumbnail and the title, and it just looks insane. I'm so curious because he is clearly standing next to an entire, I don't even know how tall it would be, but wall of snow right there.
So tell me, where are we right now?
We're on
Look
the
at
corner
that.
of Northumberland and Notre Dame in
That's his
Summerside,
car.
in our driveway.
And what's going on in here? We're in a tunnel of snow.
Well, yesterday during the storm, I figured I'd have to shovel some out eventually.
That's
So
crazy.
instead of shoveling the
What?
whole thing out and getting the wind to fill it back in,
What?
I just started digging in and in, following the path, and eventually I found the car.
That's
And
insane.
how long did this take you?
This took about six and a half hours yesterday with a
6
break
hours.
in between. I was lucky I had somebody inside cooking me a nice meal.
That's
And
very nice.
what made you want to do this and build this tunnel out to the car?
Boredom, cabin fever, I
enough.
guess. I don't know. I knew I had to do it eventually. Why not start now and
Wow.
have a little fun with it?
How tall are you? So we can get an idea of how much snow there is right now.
I'm about 5'9".
Okay.
There's,
How much snow
I'm
is
just about
there?
at the top here, but there's still about 3 feet above our heads.
That's like 10
And
foot of
there's
snow.
another car.
9 foot.
A few feet to the left of here that I've yet to excavate.
Wow.
How are you going to get these cars out?
That's a good question. I was planning on maybe
Honestly, I'm just
digging all around it, starting it and
speechless.
driving it out, but we'll see how that works.
That is just honestly insane. That is, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I know that there can be massive snow dumps, but 10 feet? Is that all in one day? Surely not. I mean, it looks so thick and it didn't really seem to have different layers to it. It didn't even look like it had settled a different thing. It looks like it just gone and copy pasted every little bit of air that just turned it into snow. So honestly, looking at that, if you just panned a little bit more to the right and just said that that was just a bird's eye view from some 40,000 feet up, just looking at some mountain range or glacier or something like that, okay, yeah, fair enough, because that is just such a perfect dump of snow. That is insane. I mean, I do love the fact that you can see his tunnel over on the left there, where he just went, nah, I'm just not going to make an entire entrance, I'm just going in. And also, to be honest, I never would have expected that Prince Edward Island could possibly get this cold. I mean, in my mind, it has red earth, and so that just means hot, but I guess that is just very different to to Australia's red earth. I mean, I guess to be fair, it did mention the fact that there was a storm, but they definitely also made a very good point about how are you possibly going to eventually get these cars out of here, because if it just keeps storming like it does, well, you're never going to get them out. You also just made an igloo, and so I guess you're going to be having that for fun, but you are never going to be just able to drive your car through that. That would waste so much. Honestly, I'm surprised these cars aren't possibly just getting crushed under all this weight of water. I mean, I guess I have seen some failed compilations before where people have just driving around with some monster just snow caps on top of their roofs, but still, like you said, this is probably, I mean, I guess if you say a car is 5 foot, if it's a sedan, 6 foot, if it's just an SUV, you were still looking at having what, like 3 foot of snow, probably an average of 4 foot of snow across the entire car. And so I can only imagine the suspension of all these vehicles is just fully compressed. But honestly, just looking through it quickly again, I think the most surprising thing about this entire thing is that he's so happy with himself. I mean, he hasn't even gotten the car out, and so he's just spent 6 hours digging a tunnel to the start of a tunnel, basically. So honestly, I kind of feel as though I just need a follow-up to this entire video, just going, what did this guy possibly do in the end? Because that is so much snow. You are not just waiting for that to melt, you kind of do just have to get rid of it. But then, where do you get rid of it to? Because it's so much snow, you don't just want to put it on your roof, and you don't want your roof to end up on the floor, because then you're just going to go round in circles. Let alone the fact that if you did somehow manage to clear all of that snow out, you know, you didn't use a blower, you didn't use a bobcat or anything like that. No, you just sat there for, I don't know, 6 days just with your shovel, just clearing it out. I bet you the very next day after you make those cars drivable, there is just going to be a massive downpour of snow, and it's just all going to be back there again. So honestly, just seeing something like this just gives me more ammunition, more reasons, and more confusion as to why and how people possibly live and even just work in these environments. You know, let's say you have to go to work. How do you go to work? You just can't. So then you don't go to work, but then do you get paid because you can't go to work? I mean, I'm sure everyone is very understanding, but to a point, you know, you can't just never go to work. And look, even though I do understand that snowfalls like this and to this extent are definitely not the most, well, common of occurrences, even if it is, oh, actually it's the Maritimes, that is where all the water is coming from, that now makes sense. But I just cannot seem to wrap my head around something that just seems so alien to me. You know, even the fact that from reading comments and watching these videos, everyone seems to have a garage, but they don't use it. And that just blows my mind, because you have this purpose-built structure that will protect your car, so where you don't have to be smearing Vaseline and everything all over it all winter, and you don't use it.